Okay, here is our Gingham Glory quilt. Now we've sewn the blocks. This is our block. And then I started sewing mine in rows, and I thought, no, stop, Tammy, because we want to sew this together. So I marked my rows with some pieces of paper and a clip, row 1, row 2, and row 3. Do you see all of my blocks are a little bit different? They're all from the same collection, but they're not all matchy-matchy, so whenever you look at it all together, it's obvious that it was intentional that you had the different blocks. So let's sew it together and add some borders. I'm going to sew row 1 to row 2, pretty side to pretty side. I'm going to sew it to this side right here because this is row 1, this is row 2. So I'm going to sew it right here. I'm going to sew this with a straight stitch, a 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when I start and when I stop because my grandma said so. And I'm going to make sure my seams match no matter what I have to do. Pinch it, pleat it, or pull it, because if it gets off a little bit here, by the time you get to the bottom, one row is 3 inches shorter than the other. We do not want to do that. We're going to sew this row, we're going to open it up, and then we're going to sew the 3rd row on.
So really, this is just basic patchwork. It's just squares sewn together. These are a little larger because there's only 9 per block, and each block is 18 inches. But when you sew them as 9 patches, then you have all of the different colors that are in intentional blocks instead of the random patchwork. But you really can't go wrong with patchwork either. Patchwork is definitely one of my favorite quilt designs.
Okay, now we have the center of our quilt done. Now, in theory, you could be finished. You don't have to do anything else, but we're going to add some borders to the outside of it just because I really like borders, and I really like 2 of them specifically, and I'm not sure why, but it's what I like, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to add, let me show you. We're going to add this border, and then my most favorite fabric of all time. We're going to add this border to the outside all the way around. I'm going to start by piecing 2 pieces together for the top and 2 pieces together for the bottom because I don't think they're going to be long enough, just one piece by itself. And I'm going to do that by sewing just the 2 short ends together, just like this. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so. Now, this is what we have. We're going to cut the selvage off of this end. I'm taking my numbers off because I don't need those anymore. The next thing I'm going to do is lay my border pretty side to pretty side at the corner, and I'm just going to sew straight all the way down. So I'm going to lay it just like this. You see that? And I'm just going to sew it all the way down until I get to the other end. And after I do that, then I'm going to do that same thing on the bottom. Now remember, you want to do the 2 opposite sides. It doesn't matter if you do each side first or if you do the top and then the bottom. And after you do the top and the bottom, then you'll do both sides. And you're going to sew it the same way. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop. Because my grandma said so.
I do not measure the sides of my quilt and then cut my borders to those sizes. I just sew my border on and cut the excess off the bottom. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just telling you that's how I do it.
Okay, when you get to the end, you're just going to pull it off, turn it upside down so that your border fabric is face up and your quilt top is face down, and then you're going to cut it off just like that. Easy peasy. Now, we're going to do the other end and both sides. And this is what we have sewn just a minute ago. We're going to open that up and lay this at the edge of that, just like this. And sew all the way down. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so.
If you care, and I say if you care because I don't care, but if you care about your quilts being square, then you will want to measure each side, cut your borders to that size, and then sew them on. I'm not making anything that's a show prize. I'm not entering any competitions and trying to win any ribbons. I'm just sewing for fun. But if you care, that's how I want you to do it.
Okay, so we've sewn this border on and this border on. Now it's time to iron it. Or not. Nana Ann's right there. So I'm going to cut the selvage off, and I'm going to piece these together just like I did the other borders. And yes, I'm going to iron it, but I'll iron it in a minute. I don't want to right now because I'm excited. I want to see what it looks like. So I'm going to lay these pretty side to pretty side, and I'm going to sew right here. And that's going to make my border long enough to go across or down the sides or across the top, whichever side I'm starting with. Now I'm going to open this up and cut my selvage off. And yes, I'm keeping all of the selvages. And I'm going to lay this. So this is what we have sewn a minute ago. So we're going to open it up. We're going to lay this right down here and sew this same way we've been sewing. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop. So I want you to do the top and bottom and then each side, or do both sides first and then the top and bottom.
And be sure that you're emailing your finished projects to info@hometownquiltcompany.com for show and tell, because we all want to see what you're making. Or drop it in the comments here. You, yes you, the one watching the screen right now, you are inspiring people every single day and you don't even know it.
So adorable, right? Now it just needs to be ironed and quilted. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.